What is up, though, Lions fans? It's your boy, Motor City Don P. And I'm back again. And you know that when you see me back again, when you see me on your TV, whatever screen you're watching me from, if you're watching me from your mobile phone, if you're watching me from your computer, your tablet, okay, your television, you know that it's one thing for certain and three things for sure. Is that the Motor City Cats are back at it. That's number one. Number two is that we came to give you stats, not static. Yes, that's number two. And number three, we want to make sure that you keep your Lions news pragmatic. And how do you keep your Lions news pragmatic? Well, it's very simple. You smash the like button, you subscribe, you share. Let everybody know what's going on around Lionstown. And let everyone know that the Pragmaticist channel, the Pragmaticist, all right, I just made that up, is here. Motor City Cats. I am your host, Motor City Don P, and we're going to get into some things. What up, though? Tactical sport. We're going to get into some things, man. We got some things to talk about. Let me send this text out because I meant to send it out before, and I forgot to send it out. And if I don't send it out now, I'm going to continue to forget to send it out. Okay. All right. So the text has been sent out. So we're gonna get into some things, man. We got some Detroit Lions players and coaches, and they're reacting to Frank Ragnow's retirement. Coach Campbell was live at the podium yesterday, spoke to the media, and he had some things that he had to say about Frank Ragnow and his retirement and why he retired and all the speculation. And I'm sure by now you've seen it. But Dan Campbell went up to the podium and he stood on business. He said, y'all that are running around here talking about Frank Ragnow being unhappy with his contract, this having anything to do with his contract is disrespectful. He said it was disrespectful to Frank, and he didn't appreciate it. He stood on business, right? I am so glad that I did not jump into the fray. I know Alex Anzalone, the thing, I did wait to talk about it until kind of 2-3 days into it. I didn't jump on it from the beginning. I wanted to have the same wait and see approach with Frank Ragnow, and I'm glad I did, because Frank Ragnow, we know, ultimately retired, and it's going to be an adjustment period. It's not just a plug and play type of thing. Frank Ragnow is an all-pro center. Last season, we were debating about who had the best offensive line. Was it the Philadelphia Eagles or was it the Detroit Lions? Obviously, most Detroit Lions said, oh, it was the Lions. Eagles fans said, we just won a Super Bowl, so whatever. Last year, there was a claim that could have been made. Right now, as it stands, it's the Eagles 100%. And it's the Eagles because we've lost both Frank Ragnow and Kevin Zeitler. Kevin Zeitler was a one-year rental pretty much, but he was so much better than Jonah Jackson. And we thought we had the best offensive line in the NFL when we had Jonah Jackson. So you go ahead and you upgrade from him with Kevin Zeitler, and you have the best offensive line. Now, kind of in a shambles. And obviously we trust in Brad and Dan. We know we got Hank Fraley, who's the best offensive line coach in the NFL. We know we have all of those pieces in place. So is it going to be a plug and play? Is it going to be a set it and forget it? Probably not. Okay. Are we better equipped to handle something like this than probably 30 other teams? I think so. I think we're well insulated. I think Tate is going to be the guy going forward. Now, maybe not week one, but I think this is the vision that they have for Tate Ratledge. So let's go ahead and get to some of that stuff. If you are in the chat and you want to say what up and you can't say what up, make sure you subscribe. That's all. We like to make sure that the subscribers get the dibs, not first dibs, the dibs, right? If you want to talk, you got to subscribe. It doesn't take any time. You just hit that button, right? Also turn on that notification bell, right? So that you know when the Motor City Cats are back at it. You know that we're keeping it pragmatic. You know these things. What up, though, Taylor Made? Taylor Made says, I don't buy it. I believe Coach Campbell took one for the franchise. Tim Twentyman won't print it. Danny Rogers won't air it. My man who does play-by-play would lose his job. Who, Dan Miller? So which one do you think? Which one do you not agree with? That's my question. You saying you don't buy it. What is it that you don't agree with? Joe Rockhead ain't got no sources. Well, that's very true. That's very true. All right. So we got some what are the reactions? We got some what are they talking about going on here? If I can find it. Okay, I know where it is. I know where it is. What up, though, Just a Fan? All right. Excusez-moi. So we've got the Detroit Lions discussing the tremendous loss of Frank Ragnow. We've got an article from Detroit Lions on SI by Vito Chirco. I'm working on something. Detroit Lions, SI, Monday. I'm working on it. We'll see what happens. And this Rakestraw put out a tweet and said he was so locked in and focused on himself. All right, so I'm working on something. I'll let y'all know if it happens. Y'all will see it on the thumbnail if it's going down. So he says the Lions know it won't be easy to replace longtime starting center Frank Ragnow, who announced his retirement earlier this week. Ragnow, the number 20 overall pick in the 2018 NFL Draft, played his entire 7-year professional career in Detroit and served as the anchor of the team's offensive line at center for 6 of his 7 seasons. During his time manning the middle of the line, he emerged as one of the game's very best players at the position. In fact, from 2020 to 2024, he was a 4-time Pro Bowl selection and earned second-team All-Pro recognition 3 times, including in 24. Veteran offensive lineman Dan Skipper, who played with Ragnow both in Detroit and with the Arkansas Razorbacks, believes that his former teammate made an immense impact on the Lions organization. Shout out Dan Skipper. I did not know he went to Arkansas, but why would I know that? I don't know if you can think of a better pro, Skipper said of Ragnow Thursday. I go way back with Frank, played at Arkansas, hosted him on his official visit, spent a lot of time with him, and man, what a consummate pro. He played through more than most folks will ever know. So we know about the knee, we know about the foot, we know about the throat, probably some fingers. What was that injury that he got? I think he aggravated his foot injury when Jared Goff threw it off of his helmet in Chicago on the goal line and it bounced up and got picked off. Yeah. I think he aggravated the foot injury on that one, stubbed his toe. What he's meant to this organization, it's hard to put into words. He came in here in the rebuilding days, fought through a lot of stuff then, on the field, off the field, and then he's been a vital part of this turnaround. So my hat's off to him. He'll be seen when he wants to be seen, and he'll be heard from when he wants to be heard from. All right? So, as I said, Frank Ragnow will not be on the sidelines this year, I don't think, unless he wants to be. But again, if you are on the sidelines, that's not a way to get away from football. Okay, you've got to detach yourself from football if you want to truly get away and retire in peace. Let me see what y'all got right now before I continue. Let's see. Let's see. All right. Nothing yet. Nothing yet. All right. So Ragnow's retirement leaves a significant hole at the center position, which is expected to now be manned by veteran Graham Glasgow, rookie Tate Ratledge, and recent free agent acquisition Tristan Colon, or Colon, right? Most people are saying Cologne. It looks like Colon to me, but I think Dan Campbell said Cologne, so we'll go with Cologne. Skipper is readily aware that it will be hard to replace Ragnow's Pro Bowl level production. I don't think we should use Pro Bowl level because the Pro Bowl is a popularity contest. So we'll say all pro level production. It's a tremendous loss, Skipper told reporters Thursday. You can't minimize that loss. That puts a huge load on everyone else because he shows up every day. He's the first one in the film room, knocking on the door, figuring out the game plan, all the weird looks, the weird calls that you fall into. That's on someone else. That's on someone else now. He's not here. So collectively as a unit, whoever is playing center, they've got to do that. Right? So it's got to be next man up because that's what football is. But Dan Skipper is letting you know it ain't going to be that easy. So all the people that act like Frank Ragnow wasn't an all-pro, for all the people that act like Frank Ragnow wasn't a very important piece of this puzzle, well, the guy that's next to him in the locker room, the guy that's next to him on the field is telling you something completely different. All right. Let's see. Before I do this, let me do something here. I don't want to do it on camera. All right. Had to clear out that passage. So we're back. Jared Goff is going to shoulder some of that load too, but collectively, we all have to band together like a band of brothers. Find the weak points and stuff and get better, because at the end of the day, the game's going to go on long after I'm gone, long after Frank's gone. So we just have to shoulder the load, pick it up, and go from there. Speaking of Ratledge, Skipper has been impressed thus far with what he's seen out of the rookie in OTAs and offseason workouts. And the veteran lineman is happy that Ratledge isn't trying to be Ragnow or something he's not, but instead is attempting to be his own player. He's grown a lot as a rookie, Skipper expressed. You know, this offense, there's a lot to it. So he's getting thrown into it, which is the best way to learn a lot of times. I'm impressed with him and the things he's doing. He's going to continue to grow, and we'll see what happens. Along with a new starting center, the Lions will also have a new starting right guard in 2025 due to Kevin Zeitler departing in the offseason to sign with the Tennessee Titans. Second-year pro Christian Mahogany, who started a late-season game at left guard in the place of Glasgow a year ago, is one of the candidates to replace Zeitler. Mahogany, like his Lions teammates, knows just how hard it will be to replicate Ragnow's production. Yet, he's committed to keeping the offensive line's level of play as high as it was with Ragnow patrolling the middle of it. We have a standard in the O-line room. The standard is the standard. We'll talk about that in a minute to see what you guys think about that. Mahogany said this week, Frank obviously is Frank. It's hard to replace that. But we have a standard here, as I've learned. Myself, the younger guys, Tate, Miles, everyone, they'll learn. Maybe for some of them, it's a little bit quicker, but we'll be ready for sure. So it's nice to see that this thing is two parts. It's nice to see that the Lions understand out of their own mouths how difficult this is going to be. However, it is also nice to see that they are ready for the challenge and they're not shying away from it. Much like their coach, Dan Campbell, when he talked about this schedule that they have and how tough it is and how battle-tested they are going to be when it comes down to the playoffs. This is preparing us for the playoffs. Look, it's really good as a Lions fan right now to hear your coach say that he has no problems with the schedule being what it is. He's actually happy that it is what it is because it prepares us and it is preparing us for the playoffs. And you can realistically believe that what he's saying is true. Long time for a Lions fan, you couldn't do that. If some coach came in here and started talking about the playoffs before the first snap of the season, before the first snap of the preseason even, during OTAs, before training camp even starts, right? During the voluntary phase, you'd look at him like he was crazy. The Detroit Lions are talking about the playoffs, right? But that's what we used to do, obviously. The Super Bowl for the Detroit Lions used to be the NFL draft. So, obviously, we won the NFL draft, so we're going to win the Super Bowl. Right? Which young stud rookie are we going to bring in and hang our hats on? We don't do that anymore. All right, got a text. Let's see what y'all got in the chat. Tactical Sports says he's very important to the line, but he isn't irreplaceable. Don't you ever get to thinking that you're irreplaceable. To the left, to the left, to the left. You already know. I had to do it. Tactical. It's your fault. Taylor Made Media says, Dan Skipper, does he even have a spot on next season's roster? Well, I don't know about next season, but he's on it for this season. Goodness gracious. Boy, I'm glad they didn't have any quotes from Pat O'Connor in there because Taylor Made would have went off. Of course, coach is going to lean toward playoffs when he talks to the media because he knows fans are watching and he is the face of the franchise. Don't act like Rod Marinelli expected to go to the playoffs. Don't act like Fatty Matty Patty expected to go to the playoffs. Okay? Come on now. Don't do that. You already know. You already know. But anyway, hold on. Let me return this tweet or this. All right. I'm trying to get Doc on the show for Monday. All right. So here's the thing, man. And here's the most important thing of all. If Frank Ragnow I'm trying to think of the words I'm trying to say carefully. Frank Ragnow was extremely important to this offensive line. This offensive line is extremely important to two things. It's extremely important to the protection of Jared Goff. And let's explore that option. Do y'all remember what Jared Goff looked like when he got to Detroit? I remember what he looked like. It wasn't pretty. Now, Jared Goff has evolved. Jared Goff has become a much better quarterback. He's a much better quarterback now than he was when he got here. That's because they put trust in him and they've given him responsibilities that Sean McVay would not. And there are those of you out there that say because he has the limitations that he has, this is why Sean McVay wouldn't put any trust in him, whatever the case may be. Look, when you're a coach, if you have a quarterback that simply needs to be developed, okay, Jared Goff was the number one pick for a reason. Jamarcus Russell was the number one pick for a reason. But the problem with Jamarcus Russell is not that he didn't have the talent. He didn't have the work ethic. Now, I saw him on the pivot like last year and he was talking about whatever, but I think there was a lot of stuff he wanted people to believe about himself. And I don't think that necessarily showed through when it came down to what he was actually putting on the field, the effort he was actually putting on in the training room and all these things, and the film room and all this. So it wasn't that Jamarcus Russell didn't have the talent. He just didn't have the work ethic. Jared Goff, I believe, has the talent and the work ethic. And this is why he was the number one pick over Carson Wentz. But when you have a quarterback that does have talent and he's willing to work and he's willing to be coached, I think Sean McVay did him a disservice. And we've talked about this before, by just letting that narrative, basically being the driving force of the narrative, that Goff wasn't a guy that you could win with, and he just threw him away in a trade to Detroit. Right? So we've seen the maturation of Jared Goff firsthand. We've seen him go from running around behind an offensive line with his chicken head, like a chicken with his head cut off, stepping out of bounds on fourth down, throwing the ball away on fourth down, just making poor decisions. Now, the amount of pressure that he's going to deal with as far as a result of Frank Ragnow retiring is not going to be what he dealt with in his first year here. Everything was awful in his first year here. But is it going to be significant enough for him to take a step back? So then what you say is, well, a quarterback's best friend, if it's not a tight end, is a running game. Well, Frank Ragnow's impact is going to also be felt in the running game. So this ain't a great situation. I don't think it's an insurmountable situation, but it's a situation that does bear keeping an eye on throughout the season, right? A lot of people expect, I'm one of those people, I don't know, because they have the ability, and we've seen it. We saw what Jahmyr Gibbs could do. Now, largely, we saw what he could do because he was the feature back after David Montgomery went out. David Montgomery went out for 3-4 games, I think. Yeah, the Buffalo game. Okay, and then he came back for the playoffs. So I think it was about 3 games that David Montgomery missed. In those 3 games, Jahmyr Gibbs went off. And Jahmyr Gibbs pushed his total to, I think it was just under 2,000 yards. or maybe just over. I would have to look it up because I don't remember it specifically. So we're expecting Jahmyr Gibbs to be able to kind of replicate that type of production. However, can he replicate that type of production now that Frank Ragnow is gone and he's splitting carries? So that's the thing. Is the running game going to be as potent and as powerful and as dominant without Frank Ragnow? That's the question that I'm asking. All right. You know, Fatty Matty Patty was expecting to go to the playoffs. Yeah, because he was a narcissist and he didn't know how much he sucked. But deep down, he knew he sucked. I dig Doc's insights. I do too. I want to get him on here and ask him about the OTAs because we didn't really get a lot of information coming out of the OTAs because I think the press was only there twice, once in the first week and once in the second week. Who's responsible for this alleged metamorphosis that is now Jared Goff? I would say Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes for giving him the opportunity. Osama bin Johnson for sitting down with him and trying to figure out what his strengths were and what his weaknesses were. And John Morton was here when they developed this offense. So I think he is a big reason why John Morton was brought in to be the offensive coordinator was because he has worked with Jared Goff before. So I think that his familiarity with the player had as much to do with him getting the job as his familiarity with the offense. I don't know if both of them were equal. I would say his familiarity with the player was just a slight bit. If we had to put him at the percentage points, instead of 50-50, I would say 51-49 or maybe 52-48. One of those things. All right. Excuse me one more time. All right. I don't want to be blowing my nose all on camera. That's pretty nasty. Says, you're about to find out what kind of QB Jared Goff really is without Frank Ragnow snapping the ball to him. We are going to find out. We're going to find out if this metamorphosis is complete. Goff will be the leader of the Lions offense this season, in my opinion. Inside OL will take 6 to 8 games to gel. Well, that's going to suck if it takes 6 to 8 games. I hope they can do it faster. Remember, we are going to raise the bar. Morning barf. A lot of people like, so this is the difference between when I talk about these coaches, right? A lot of people believe that they tell you that they're going to the playoffs. You don't believe them, and they don't believe themselves. That's why I like Jim Mora. Playoffs? Who said anything about playoffs? Right? He was very honest. Okay, and he's famous for that. Playoffs? Nobody remembers his record. They just remember playoffs. Who said anything about playoffs? That's it, right? So nobody credits his QB coach. Mark Brunell, yes. And Mark Brunell is still there. Um, Sometimes you forget about people when you start naming people, right? You got to list people off. So Mark Brunell, shout out to Mark Brunell, who is still there, who's still the quarterback's coach, who still works with Jared every day. So, I mean, I think that Jared pretty much has the same infrastructure around him. It's just that Osama is not there anymore. That's all. And I don't think it's going to be as large as a blow as a lot of people think. I think he's insulated, just like, Kelvin Shepard is insulated by around, Casey Rogers, and forget the dude's name who was the safeties coach. And as I said before, he's got a spotter, and this is the guy that he said is going to cover his cover his blind spots. What happened there? I don't know. Hold on. All right. Alleged metamorphosis. I should have came on here with some tea. My goodness. All right. Goff credited Osama bin Johnson, and I gave Osama bin Johnson his credit. But it takes a village, as they say. You know what I'm saying? It takes a village. Here's when Coach Campbell became the face of the franchise. That squad went 3-13-1. Every week, Coach would get up there and say, "We're a player or two from winning that game." That resonates. And he was right. That's the thing. The difference between a lot of other coaches and Dan Campbell is Dan Campbell's right. Because Dan Campbell really did believe in the players that he had in the building. He really did believe in his staff. He really did believe, except for, certain people that had to be fired, right? He really did believe in these people. And that's why you saw 12-5. That's why you saw in that, after 3-13-1, you saw a 1-6 start and a 9-8 overall record. Then the next year you saw 12-5 and an NFC Championship berth. Then the next year you saw 15-2. Right? Because he bought into the players, he bought into the culture, he bought into the people that were in the building, and in turn, everyone bought into him. Right? Rod Marinelli, from all accounts that I've heard, great guy, super duper nice, not a head coach. Right? Really good defensive line coach, not a head coach. Okay, we know Fatty Matty Patty had no business being anybody's head coach. He's an asshat, right? We know Jim Caldwell. I think Jim Caldwell's... What would you say Jim Caldwell's faults were? I felt like he was too beholden to his offensive coordinators. I mean, when you let Joe Lombardi come in here and pound the table for Eric Ebron, he should have been like, Martin, no, don't listen to this guy. Go ahead and draft Aaron Donald. Put him next to Sue. We'll get a tight end later. You know what I mean? So Tactical says, you see Osama is having linemen running routes. Man, he wants to beat the Lions so bad. I think that was kind of his thing. He had linemen running routes in Detroit. So I think that was kind of his thing. That's something he likes, you know? Running the drills doesn't change the culture. Ben has to show me before I believe he is a head coach. He was absolutely right then. He was absolutely right. Then if the Lions beat the Eagles in that season opener, ain't no telling how much more quickly the Lions would have turned it around. Facts. Jim Caldwell was too timid. We had a lot of coaches speak from him. I think so. He was too timid. He was very beholden to his offensive coordinators. And he also, now, right or wrong, I think he was right for trying to tamp down Matthew Stafford's gunslinger mentality. And he did that by taking the ball out of his hands for much of the game. But it just needed to be more effective. You understand what I'm saying? Hold on. All right. So I just asked Doc if he'd be able to come on. Jim Caldwell's clock management was atrocious. Yeah. But we can all agree that he was better than Fatty Matty Patty. Fatty Matty Patty was that was an awful thing to do to a franchise. This franchise has done so many awful things to us. They hired Matt Millen. They hired Quinn Trisha. I don't want to talk about it. All right. Hot topic. Shift gears here. Amon-Ra St. Brown was out of OTAs, and everyone was wondering why Amon-Ra St. Brown was not participating in OTAs. And then I think on the last day of OTAs, he was there and he talked to the media. So basically what had happened was Amon-Ra St. Brown had knee surgery. So obviously it was a minor procedure and he will be ready for training camp. While he was there, and if Doc says that he can come on the show, I'll ask him some questions about the OTAs. I'll ask him about my guy, J-Mo. But while he was there, J-Mo was getting a lot of shine. He was getting a lot of work as the number one wide receiver. Does anybody believe that Jameson Williams will emerge as the number one wide receiver before the end of the season? I don't know if he will emerge as the number one wide receiver by the end of the season. But as I've said before, I can see a path to his production being greater than Amon-Ra St. Brown's production. Can you guys see a path? Do you believe that there is a path? Or do you believe that it'll always be Amon-Ra St. Brown? And not because of his price tag, because we don't do that here under Dan Campbell. Well, what do y'all think? What are y'all's expectations as far as how this dynamic duo is going to work out? Because one thing I did hear from Doc earlier today, who was on the heavies, was that Johnny Morton was making a concerted effort to get Sam Laporta the football. So if you're going to reintegrate Sam Laporta into this offense, which he said Osama bin Johnson didn't make a concerted effort last season to get him involved, I think Osama bin Johnson made a concerted effort to get J-Mo involved. Too much, in fact, to where he had him throw a freaking pass in the playoffs. Brian Branch had a boot on his foot this time last year. Did he suit up at all for OTA? I don't remember if Brian Branch was there. I think I heard him. Okay. Let's see what he has said here. I wanted it to be on Monday because I was going to be on LNU. Hold on. All right. So he might not be able to come on Monday, but definitely he should be able to come on. If it's not this week coming, then it should be next week. I would like for it to be this week because obviously I want you guys to get your questions in, kind of put them in the mailbag in the Discord so that I can have like what questions you want me to ask Doc while he's on. So yeah. I think he will have more yards and touchdowns than St. Brown, but St. Brown will be the number one wide receiver. St. Brown has better hands than JMO, therefore he is Goff's security blanket. I can agree with that. 6:16. What's today? Okay. Okay. So not this Monday, but next Monday. All right. Well, I wouldn't give the ball to Jamison Williams on a short field. I'd get some blockers in front of him and watching him run 70 yards with it. St. Brown can't do that consistently. Your laugh always reminds me of Muttley. um, so I don't know, JMO, man. I do expect big things from JMO this year. Doc had an interesting take on JMO and how he's going to be here continuously through even 2027. So it's possible. I don't know if the Lions would do it. It involves using the franchise tag, but it's possible. It's possible. Like I said, I do believe, like Tactical Spork said, I do believe that he will have more yards and touchdowns. And the reason that I believe that is, like I've been saying all offseason, since we hired Johnny Morton and since he came in and said he wants more explosive plays, the big play is back. He wants to push the ball downfield. I mean, the only wide receiver that you think of when it comes to Detroit Lions stretching the football field is Jameson Williams. You know, Khalif has speed. You know, Tim Patrick is a big body, 50-50 ball guy. You know all those things. But when it comes to taking the top off of a defense, it's Jameson Williams. Now, another thing that Doc did say about And this is the crazy thing. When he cooked Ennis Rakestraw on that video, he said he was going about 84% speed. He didn't even get to top speed, and he cooked the man by 3 yards. Just understand that. He didn't even go top speed, and he cooked the man. He brought that man into the kitchen. He chopped him up. He put him in the pot in some boiling water, and he cooked him. Now, I know that may be a graphic, you know what I'm saying, depiction of what happened, but you can't cook a man in any other way, okay? You just can't. Tim Patrick is 44 years old. Tim Patrick is 44 years old. Tim Patrick's not that old. I mean, he looks older than, Okay, he's old. He's old in football. In football years, he probably is 44. In football years, he probably is 44. All right. But Rakestraw was still on the play. I can't be the only one seeing this. No, I said that before. I said he was in the frame, right? He didn't get completely it wasn't like a Jeff Oh Hell No Cuda type burning. You remember the Jeff Oh Hell No Cuda type burnings when he was just completely out of the frame? Like you couldn't even see him. He was beat by 5 yards. And he was always running after wide receivers as they ran into the end zone. It wasn't that type of burning. No, it wasn't. There really isn't a cornerback in the NFL that can keep up with Jamo's speed. So I don't begrudge any cornerback that gets burnt by Jameson Williams. I feel for them. We need to start a group chat. Me and the victims of Jameson Williams, as far as cornerbacks, we need to have a prayer session. We need to pray together. Because you're going to get burnt. If you get locked up against J-Mo one-on-one, you're going to get burnt. And J-Mo, he's adding that hezzy to his game, so he'll break off the line and hit you with the hezzy. If you get frozen, let me tell you something. The only cornerback that I believe can get back into the frame on a perfectly thrown ball to Jameson Williams is Nate Wiggins. And I don't believe it's Nate Wiggins because Nate Wiggins is such a great corner and he's a shutdown, lockdown, or whatever. He's just a rookie, right? He didn't do a whole lot last year. But the only reason I say this is because Nate Wiggins runs a 4.2. That's it. Because Nate Wiggins runs a 4.2. He can chase J-Mo. Right? If J-Mo does indeed run a 4.1 and Nate Wiggins runs a 4.2, okay, J-Mo's faster, but you can keep up with J-Mo. Jameson Williams runs a 4.1, you run a 4.5, you've got no chance. Okay? You've got zero chance. So if Jameson Williams hits you with the hezzy and freezes you off the line, just go sit out. Just go to the water cooler. Just go to the sidelines and take a seat. Okay? That's all. That's it. Once you finally mobilize yourself after being frozen, you look up and Jameson Williams is 10 yards down the field. Just go sit down. Right? Just go sit down. Because that's a touchdown and your defense is about to be on the bench. So you might as well get a head start. Okay, so if J-Mo hits you with that hezzy and you fall for it and you can't recover, because you're not going to be able to recover. You're just not going to be able to. So that is what that is. If J-Mo's even, he's leaving. Might as well change his name to Steven. You know what I'm talking about? If J-Mo develops great route running and great hands, he will get over 1,500 yards and 12 plus touchdowns. I think his hands are coming into form, man. You know, you saw the picture of him catching it with one hand. You know, I think, look, Dan Campbell challenged this guy. He challenged J-Mo by saying a couple years ago he didn't believe that J-Mo would ever have elite hands. And we saw J-Mo have an unfortunate bout of the dropsies in his first, season. So that, the narrative was there because there's a lot of people that don't like J-Mo for non-football reasons. So the narrative was there that he couldn't catch and blah, blah, blah. We see last season, that the drops weren't an issue. Okay? Now, everyone's going to drop a ball here and there. I mean, Amon-Ra St. Brown has even dropped a ball or two. So I think that's been addressed. I think he has been hitting the jugs machine with Amon-Ra. I don't know if he's been doing 202 or 201, what have you, after every practice. But I do believe that he has worked pretty hard on his hands. Never heard of who? Jeff Okudah? That means the safety has to come out of his position to cover. I mean, that may be his position. It may be bracket coverage. But if you're talking about a safety being on the other side of the field, I don't think there's any safety in this league that's going to take the type of angle that needs to be taken to get Jameson Williams. If Jameson Williams hits you with the hezzy and you're just 10 yards behind him, okay, you can turkey hold that thing if it's bracket coverage, or if it's single coverage, throw it over the top. Like I said, the safety on the other side of the field is not going to be able to get to him. Now, if the safety is playing center field, that's a different story, right? If you got single high safety and he's in the middle of the field, he might be able to get over there depending on the velocity of the pass. I was told that Jameson Williams lacks work ethic. Well, whoever told you that probably doesn't have any sources. When his dad texts him all the time, telling him to make sure he outworks everybody, and this is something that he instilled in him as a child, I think he's got some work ethic going on. But, there are those that like to, sling mud for no reason. Yeah, and if that safety takes a bad angle because he underestimates his speed, they might as well put 7 on the board. Now, so if you underestimate Jameson Williams' speed, you're what is known in some circles as a dumbass. Most circles, all of them. Yeah, they will call you a dumbass. You better not underestimate no J-Mo speed. You can underestimate Goff's arm strength. You can underestimate Amon-Ra St. Brown's speed. But J-Mo's speed, you better not. J-Mo has no taste in food, though. I love J-Mo. I'm the official keeper of the J-Mo. I don't rock with ice cream on the Big Mac. Listen, I don't think this is a hot take, bro. I am done with McDonald's. I'll tell you why I'm done with McDonald's. Taylor May, I keep telling you, the man can throw the football down the field. You just have to watch this season. Watch. I'm done with McDonald's because I think it was last weekend. I was out working, and obviously I hadn't eaten breakfast because I start working pretty early, like 5, 6 a.m. And generally don't grab anything to eat. So if I'm out and I'm working like a long time, you get pretty hungry out there, right? So I was like, okay, cool. Heading back to the airport. Stopped at McDonald's. I'm like, I'm gonna get some fries and a drink. That's all I wanted. Salted caramel frappe. I might still mess with that salted caramel frappe. I'm not gonna lie to you. But as far as the food, bro, I waited for 5 minutes to get my fries. My fries didn't feel like it was a 5 minute wait because you had to cook them and make them fresh. It felt like it was a 5 minute wait just because they were incompetent and they had them sitting under the heat lamp for the entire probably 10 minutes. Okay. Not 5. They probably had them sitting under there before I got there. These fries taste like, now these are supposed to be fresh fries. They didn't have the same texture as McDonald's fries. I felt like they went to the grocery store and bought some. Like it wasn't even the McDonald's supplier. It was like they went to the grocery store and bought something. They were skinny, malnourished fries. The salt content was not up to snuff of a McDonald's French fry. Right now, remember that McDonald's French fries, some people believe, are the best French fries that you can get from a fast food restaurant. If you know it's Chick-fil-A, you know. Okay? Because them waffle fries, chef's kiss. You understand what I'm saying? And I can do that. You understand what I'm talking about? Those fries that I got from that McDonald's were awful. Months ago, when I talked to you about salted caramel frappe, I went into one McDonald's, and I've never been. Now this was several months ago. We're talking about 6, 7 months ago, and I've never been back. I went into this one McDonald's, got a salted caramel frappe, left, started drinking the salted caramel frappe, and it was nothing but milk. It didn't have any flavor. It didn't have any color. They just gave me milk. At least that's what it tasted like. So I threw it away. And because I was so frustrated by this, I was taking someone somewhere further out. I went into the next McDonald's that I saw after I dropped them off, and I got another salted caramel frappe. But that particular McDonald's, I have never gone back to that one. I've sworn it off, and I will never go back to it because it is the worst McDonald's ever. McDonald's is McBarf food in my food now, IMO. Okay. He has a fast metabolism. I used to eat like that when I was in the Army and Marines. I was 125 for 20 years of my military career. Bro, I used to say I had an iron stomach. I had a our school was sponsored. Our high school was sponsored by Chick-fil-A. Bro, we went to camp at the school because we weren't allowed, because the year prior we had gone to this like lake area for camp and someone drowned right in front of me. We went off zip lines and he went off the zip line in front of me and he never came up. But I think that same year someone also died on the school grounds from a heat stroke. Now, he didn't die on school grounds. They transported him to the hospital and he died there. So the school was under like investigation and there was a lawsuit for the coaches and all that stuff. So we weren't allowed the next year to go to camp off site. So we had to go to camp at the school. We were sleeping in the cafeteria, all that stuff. They ordered on the first day of camp tons of Chick-fil-A, biscuits, chicken sandwiches, pizza, right? When I tell you I gained 7 pounds that day, and by the end of the 2 days, I had lost 5 pounds the same day or the very next day. Bro, I couldn't keep weight on. All I was 125 pounds of solid muscle. I was like a knuckle. Okay. I was like a fist, you know what I'm saying? Low to the ground. And when I ran into you from that low center of gravity, look at my eyes, roll them. Good night. When I was a kid, McDonald's was great, fast food. Now it's not fast and it's not food. I would second that. So I'm done with them. Mailbag, you say Jameson Williams' father texts him every day about not getting outworked. Yes, I did say that, right? He says outwork everybody. This is something he was instilled with as a child from his father. I know because I did the same thing with my son, one of my sons. And I'm doing the same thing with the other one now. He's 13. You got to have the work ethic. And when you have your father around you, making sure that you have it, and then you've gotten to the NFL, I don't know how you don't have work ethic. You know, there was another person also who would rag on J-Mo because he was a freelancer, and then tried to get some coach, like high school coach that was in his area or something. It wasn't actually like a coach of J-Mo, but some high school coach to come on and say the same thing, that, oh, he was a freelancer and everything like this. Well, my thing is, if you play in offenses where they allow you to freelance, if you play in offenses where they just tell you to line up and run down the field and we'll find you the football. When you play in offenses like you were doing that at Alabama, you were doing that in high school, you were doing that in Little League, okay? So all the way back to when you started playing football, that is not a negative. That is just how you were taught to play football. So when you get drafted by the Detroit Lions and you have to understand how to work within a system, which he now understands, this just exudes those people that wanted him to fail from the beginning. Oh, he's a freelancer. Because that's what he was doing his entire career. Okay? As a kid, from kid all the way up to high school, to university, right? He was allowed to do that. Why? Because it runs a 140. Hey, just go deep, bro, and we're going to get it to you. How do you think he wound up with 20 yards per catch at Alabama? Because just go deep and we'll get it to you. Like, he averaged 20 yards per catch at Alabama. Okay, so now what has happened? I don't know. I don't have any. The guy got blocked by J-Mo on Twitter. I don't have any contact with that guy. But now what is he saying about J-Mo? Is he still a freelancer? Okay. With all the tremendous trust that Dan Campbell has in J-Mo, that Amon-Ra St. Brown has in J-Mo, that Jared Goff has in J-Mo, that all his teammates have in J-Mo, is he still a freelancer? Is he still not a fit in this offense? that your new offensive coordinator comes in and immediately identifies this is going to be the guy to take my offense past what Osama bin Johnson was doing? Is he still a freelancer? Is he still a guy you don't want on your team? Come on, bro. We just got to stop it. We got to stop it. All right, we're back with the sound. Okay. So I'm gonna tell y'all the reason that I don't know. Okay, the reason that I have to wait for the sound is because y'all know I have that soundboard. So the soundboard is an application. So my microphone runs through the soundboard. That's the only way that it will work. So I have to wait for the application to load. So I probably need to change the order of my startup applications. I need to have that loading first. But obviously I don't ever remember it until it crashes. And then once it crashes, then I'm like, oh crap, I gotta wait for my microphone. So that's pretty much what that is and why that is. But the crazy thing is, all of that happened and I was about to go anyway. So I'll answer your questions. Tactical Sports says, I joined the Marines and I was 99 pounds, graduated boot camp at 125, stayed there for 20 years, retired at 130. I definitely retired at more than 130. I didn't retire. I'm not retired yet. When was the last time Lions media profiled Jameson Williams' family? I don't think they ever have. Yeah, Taylor Media said, if you know, you know. Just a fan, yes, I am fighting a cold, but Monday I should be back to normal. Okay. All right. So, like I said, all of that, because I got to get back out to work. All of that just to come back and sign off. So I appreciate y'all for hanging out with me. It looks like we're going to try to get Doc on not this coming Monday, but the next Monday. So June 16th. So you got now a whole week and some change to get your questions in. So make sure you hit up the mailbag section of the Discord and say this is a question for Doc, or hashtag Ask Doc, or whatever, like however you want to put it in there so that I know it's a question that you want me to ask Doc. But do that, and hopefully I will have some other people from LNU that I'll have them get their questions in as well. It's just a larger audience on Mondays, so that's why I want him to be here on Monday and not just a random day of the week. So anyway, that is what that is. Appreciate you guys once again. The Motor City Cats are back at it. We came to give you stats and not static. Whatever you do, make sure you keep your Lions news pragmatic, and we are out. Peace.